Hi, everyone. I'm Douglas, the CEO of Arival, and I am excited to have here with us the Chief Commercial Officer with Klook, one of the leading online travel agencies for tours and experiences across Asia Pacific and to some degree around the world. We'll talk about that. Wilfred Fan. Wilfred, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
So we have lots to talk about. There's been a number of debates and things that have been going on around kind of the role of online travel agencies, especially during the crisis that we're all confronting. But just before we get into some of the industry issues, I'd just love to get a perspective of from you and what has Klook been going through as you were seeing this situation unfold, and you're kind of right in the middle since the very beginning. And you're based in Bangkok, but the headquarters in Hong Kong. When you're with the executive team, can you just share a little bit of what you all would discuss, what was going through your minds, and how you were thinking about navigating the company through this?
Yeah, with our head office in Hong Kong and the proximity to China, we actually see it pretty close on how things evolved in China, and then the closure of a city, and then the state, and then the entire country. And as that was happening, we were already thinking about how this might affect the rest of Asia, and not really knowing then how it's going to affect the world as it is now. But we are actually quite fortunate, in a way that the foundation of the fundamental of an online business is that we have a very light asset. We don't have hardware, we don't have factories, and so it makes it a little easier for us to adjust and make us a little easier to pivot for things that we need to do, which is for now the pivotal point is to transition from inbound travel to 100% domestic in most of the places that we operate in. And at the same time, we have to make some adjustment with people, making sure that we still have a very strong team to go, forward, to continue to go towards our mission in developing the leading brand in the world for online travel. So just a lot of things that happen, while I'm thinking it through. I think personally, how I felt was really, feel really, really difficult for a lot of partners that we work with. Not everyone has been fortunate in the way that we are in, but also there are companies that we work with, friends that I know of, and the business no longer around. They just couldn't withstand already 6-7 months of no business, no income for the company or for themselves. So it's really hard, and I hope that things will get back to normal, or at least some sort of inbound traffic is going to come through to help the industry to get back on its feet.
So let me ask you a little bit about pivots. That's been a pretty popular word over the past several months. So you talked a bit about kind of this pivot to domestic. Can you talk a bit more about that? And can that make a dent for the Klook business?
Well, of course, a much larger part of our business has been depending on or is focusing on the cross-border business. And now that is on hold, we have to refocus ourselves on what the customers are looking for within each of the country. And quite frankly, it's not an easy transition, right? There are a lot of countries that we know a little better about the behavior of the customer, that we have a pretty strong base, mostly, of course, in North Asia. In some countries in Southeast Asia as well. For example, Singapore, we do have a pretty strong user base there. But we have been serving them to go overseas, right? Now we need to figure out what else they would do within that market. And again, fortunately, we do have quite a lot of services that is very much targeting the local audience. We call it the local for local services, like our food and beverage offering, that the majority of the customers historically has already been for locals, and we just need to learn from them and extend a little bit further beyond the food and beverage offer, where else would they go? In a small place like Singapore or Hong Kong City, where would people go? What would they do? So we discovered and start to launch services like virtual reality services and experiences. We have added a lot of different type of outdoor activities as well. That is really fundamentally what people want to do when they are able to leave their home, to go out, to be under the sun, to be on a kayak, hiking trail, and all those services that we have to find. But every country and every city has a different behavior, right? We wouldn't find that, okay, paddleboarding at the beach is the winner. It wouldn't be the winner across the board. Every city, again, has a different behavior. Even there is very high similarity between the culture and the climate still. That a little bit of subtle difference make us work pretty hard to find those things and keep testing them.
So, there's an interesting question from Kevin Liu here about, with this change, what kinds of products are you looking for, or what is your product acquisition strategy? And I had a similar question. So from an operator's perspective, what are you looking for? Could you give maybe some examples, especially with the variation from destination to destination?
Yeah, sure. The things I mentioned about outdoor, that's definitely relevant for a lot of locations, but the mix of outdoor activities it differs. So there are some areas when they actually have some good proximity to the ocean, then a lot of water sports is really, really popular. And then there are places that, cities or countries in a bigger is much more open, and they can travel a little further. And then things like car rental has been very popular actually, or transportation service has been very popular in those areas. So I think when it comes to recommendation to operators on what they should be doing, is just that they need to re-identify the customer. A lot of partners of ours, say the transportation companies or the tour companies, what they used to have is maybe a specialty in a certain language skill, but that's no longer a competitive advantage to have that language offer. When you're serving the local customers, that's just not needed. And so they have to reinvent and adjust their services in terms of not just the language, but also the itinerary need to be adjusted, because there are places that the local customers would just not be interested in. Some of the most popular landmarks are basically just some places they would pass on a daily basis or regularly, that they have no interest to go there specifically to take a selfie. So it's more about unexplored location, undiscovered places around the country that people might be interested to go. But exactly where they are, I think actually the operators, they would have a pretty good idea when they look a little bit deeper. They talk to the other people, within the company or within the community, and they can find them. And our platform is there to help them to experiment. So we can add those changes pretty much instantly once they come through, and then we just need to go through a little bit of content updates, and it goes live, and then we'll see if it resonates with the customers, if there's traffic. So we're very actively testing many things. We're very actively engaging with the local audience, and fortunately, we do have a pretty strong base of users in Asia Pacific.
So do you so you are looking for new product? Are you looking to expand? Do you need more product now or less product?
We actually need more product, because the portfolio of products we have in the past, I would say almost half of them are not really getting much demand right now. Right, all the language-specific options that I mentioned, they're not in demand. There's just no such need right now. There's no traffic, and there are options, services or products that are really catered to foreigners. that don't know the country or don't know the city much, again, those are pretty stagnant right now. So we have to expand and include a new batch of services that is hyper local. And from around March until now, we have added something like 5,000 different services just in Asia, and we're still adding more.
How do you? I mean, you've talked about pivoting the product, but how do you pivot the brand? I mean, it's one thing to offer like a local service, and I think I've seen some partnerships in F&B, but how do you get your customers to think of you as, okay, not just the attraction ticket and the experience, or say the transfer when I go to Bangkok or Tokyo, but now I'm going to get a voucher to a local restaurant or to a local experience that I might know that's right around the corner for me?
It takes a little bit of convincing the customers, why they should be using a service when most of them will already know a location, they would know where to go, but why still I want to use the service. So it comes in a few ways. The first thing we do is in terms of the safety effort that we have put in to improve our content related to hygiene and safety of different operators. We have a standard, we have a checklist for the operator partners, and they will go through it, and then we provide them a badge as a badge of confidence for the consumer to see it. So it conveys this message to consumer that if they use our service, they will have a better idea of how the operator is looking after the disinfectants, the safety, the social distancing, and all the things that is necessary in current times. The other thing is in terms of the creating even more, or actually reducing the number of touch points for the travelers when they don't have to pay in cash, when they don't have to stand at the counter or queue up for ticketing, and when they can use QR code or API connected services for real-time entry. That's what we have been doing pretty well. And we advertise it together with the theme parks and attraction operators, and also working with a few government organizations to promote that to the public, that by going through online, using Klook as a service, there is a fair bit of advantage. And the third part is the discovery of service available on a platform. We continue to aggregate more services that is relevant for the domestic customers. We change our design to feature more of what people can look for around them, the proximity of the services around them. And that really helped people to say on a weekend, on the holidays, where should I go? What are the things to do around me? And let me go and discover. So just capturing the customer's imagination and trying to provide them with the relevant service is a key to convince the customers. And we are already seeing quite a positive impact right now.
How long are you planning for this? If you think about kind of the future of this, is this a temporary, is this a short-term pivot, or is this, you're planning for this to be a long-term pivot?
We are investing in this in the long term, right? Not just as a prediction of when the pandemic will be over. And regardless of that, right, we still want to be committed to the domestic tourism business, which is significant, very large size, and very sustainable. Though that's not our primary focus when we started the company. We believe that now with this change, it could be one of the core strengths of our brand and our business going forward. And still, if we are relevant for someone who wants to look for something to do and travel to places to go in the current situation within the country or the state or the city, when they feel like going even further, once things are coming back to normal, they will still remember a brand, and we do have that offering already. So I think this is definitely something we're investing for the long term.
So one of the hot topics that's come up over the past week or so, there's been some reporting about Google stepping up its game, some new advertising products, and I think it was reported that Klook was participating or could be a potential partner in that. Would love to get your take. Is this a strategic concern, a worry for Klook?
I'm not worried, and we partner quite closely with Google, and also coming from my experience working with Google in the past 2 decades in a slightly different field, in the hotel OTA space. I understand Google's direction in when they work with industry, when they work in a certain segment of the industry, is to facilitate users in a way to discover what they're looking for and make it easy for them to purchase or acquire either knowledge or commodity or product and services that people are looking for. And it's something that they can do pretty well. But we see them not coming into actually operating a business, as in aggregating the content themselves, as in providing customer services. There are quite a lot of fundamental things that is provided by the industry, like that we do at Klook. It's not something that Google is interested in, and that's the foundation of how we work with them, and it's been a pretty good relationship.
But they are also, to some degree, they have the potential to become a competitor within their own advertising search results and the auction to some degree. There's been, while the CEO of one of your competitors, Get Your Guide, has been pretty vocal about Google kind of stepping in. And on the one hand, they're happy to take all of your advertising dollars, and yet at the same time, in a way, kind of compete, directly. That doesn't cause you any concern?
Well, we are always looking at the situation. I wouldn't say that I'm just, putting it back of our mind and forget about it. But there is a certain understanding from what I see, also as an operator and also as an advertiser on Google platform, that there is a certain degree of fairness they will maintain. And of course, they also want to increase their revenue and improve their bottom line as a for-profit organization. So would they charge me more if they could? It probably would. But at the same time, they would not want to destroy my business, so there's no more income. So maintaining the business and helping the advertisers to be sustainable is something that is important to them as well. So yes, they are able to create more listing opportunities for us and for those operators and that could afford and know how to do this online. They could open that up, but does it reduce the market size? Looking at the hotel industry in the over 2 decades of development on online advertising through Google, there is still a lot of players that is doing really well and growing all the time, right? Barring the current situation, there's a bit of a downturn. But in the past 20 years, it's been up and up. Yes, Google has been able to make more and more money over this period of time as well, but so does the operators and OTAs.
So, one of the questions that's come up from a number of operators, a number of calls to OTAs, and especially some of the larger and more well-funded OTAs, during this time, to help operators and look at reducing or even waiving commissions for a certain period. Airbnb has done that up to a certain cap for its experience hosts. Is that something that you've looked at? Could operators expect that from Klook, or what's your view there?
We have always been very, I would say, fair in our commission to the operators. And by reducing the commission or giving up the commission, it doesn't really help anybody to increase demand. It doesn't help anyone to become more profitable. The key is to build confidence for travelers. Once a place is safe to travel, once the business is opening up, and we invest every single dollar we make and more into sending that message. Also pulling together resources from the tourism organization. We have partnership with Singapore Tourism Board, in the Philippines, in Hong Kong, in quite a lot of countries, Australia, just basically working together to pool the resources from us, from the operators, who is, of course, looking at this as a really important channel, as well as the government bodies that communicate, create programs, educational programs to the operators, communications to the consumers, advertising, and all that just goes into reviving the market and create demand. I think that is a much better way to help the operators to get back on his feet and bring the customer back. That's the long-term solution that we're looking at.
So, Wilfred, we've come to the end of our time, but I can't let you go without one kind of final question, which is, what does the Klook crystal ball say? When is this all going to come to an end, and when can we start traveling again?
I really hope that it's going to be back to normal sometime in 2021. But that's not what we are prepared for. We are prepared for even a longer, process to have inbound tourists again. And even if it doesn't come back in the near future, we are building a business that will be sustainable, just serving the domestic travel business. That's very fortunate for us to be in a position that we have the ability and resources to pivot. But it's still a difficult path.
Well, Wilfred, I certainly hope we don't have to make, all of us don't have to make those types of preparations, and travel does start to resume in 2021 or even sooner. But thank you very much for joining us today, and let's have you back so we can see how that big domestic pivot is going.
Thank you very much, Douglas.